Hello everybody, I'm Joey and I'm going to do a video log. In fact, I've already recorded the video log, I'm just editing it now and doing a little voiceover intro for the video log. Basically this was a video log done on the 4th of January, 2019, 0104, about the most recent episode of Star Trek and the Orville. In the case of Star Trek, it was a short trek, so it was based on Star Trek Discovery. If that counts as Star Trek, I don't think it should, but whatever. And the Orville, which is brought to you by Seth MacFarlane and many people involved with Star Trek Enterprise and Star Trek Voyager, and I guess even Star Trek The Next Generation, and probably some crossover with Deep Space Nine. I'm not sure how much, but definitely Voyager and Enterprise. And some of them were with Star Trek and Star Trek The Next Generation. Anyway, this is just a video log I did. I'm Joey. Yeah, here I am. And I recorded this quickly. I just got the camera and did a voiceover because I didn't want to take time to set up the camera. I just figured I'd do one right there and then on the spot. Alright, I have no idea how well that camera is set up. And the sun is in my eyes on this angle. And so anyway, to make a long story short, I thought this would be a quick way to do a video, but here I am over a week later, and I still haven't edited it yet. So yeah, almost 2 weeks later, and I even referenced this in a live video log I've done since then, but anyway, here it is. Finally, I've gotten around to edit this video log. Here it is. Here is my audio. This is what I was going to say. This is my reaction to the short trek and the episode of the Orville that I just watched the day before. This was early in the morning on the 4th of January 2019. Here's my audio. Here it is. Here it is. I'm finally getting to the point. Here we go. Hey, let's go to excitement video now. Okay, on this 4th of January of 2019, I watched the Orville and I watched the newest short trek from Star Trek Discovery. And that's what I'm going to comment on. And it's early in the morning of, as I said, the 4th of January in the year 2019. And both of these shows aired yesterday. Now, I had a choice. The Space Channel was going to be airing the new short trek opposite when the Fox Channel was going to be airing the Orville. Now, the last time the Orville aired, I actually missed it. I think it's the first time I ever missed an episode of the Orville. But I discovered I could watch it online. Anyway, I believe it was City TV. Their website has the ability to rebroadcast it on the internet. So I knew I could catch the Orville even if I missed it. That said, I'd rather see the Orville than Star Trek Discovery. Now, I'm a big fan of Star Trek, but Star Trek Discovery is not generally real Star Trek or good Star Trek. But I actually went with watching Star Trek Discovery first because it was on the Space Channel, and the Space Channel was doing some sort of weird movie marathon that hasn't finished yet, not since Christmas, and we're into January and they're still doing the movie marathon thing. So the short trek was going to air between movies, and it was going to be even longer before they repeated it later in the night. Well, the Orville, a couple hours later, I could just watch it on a different time zone because they have multiple time zones for Fox and all the other channels it airs on. So I watched the short trek first, which is the Harry Mudd story, which, by Star Trek Discovery standards, the writing was surprisingly competent. Now, I'm not somebody who jumps on board every time somebody says they violated canon, that they made a major continuity error. I'm not somebody that gets on board with that. I think people exaggerate it. For example, and trust me, I think this was a very bad episode, incompetently written, that I'm about to reference. But the short trek, where they had that alien girl aboard the Discovery and Tilly was interacting with her, a very incompetently written episode. I mean, it was nonsensical to the nth degree.
That said, when it was discovered this alien had the ability to recrystallize dilithium, and she was trying to keep it from the Federation. She didn't want the Federation to take that from her. Well, that didn't contradict anything. Some people said, well, they don't have the ability to do that yet. Well, the Federation doesn't have the ability to do that yet. But this alien, that's not a contradiction that somebody else can do it. And some people are like, well, they would have referenced that alien could do it. It's like, why would they? This doesn't seem to be like incredibly. This doesn't seem like it's public knowledge or anything like that. And even if it was, when they talk about this in the future, why would they reference every alien species that's rumored to know how to do this? I mean, no, that's just bullshit. There's no reason why this would be referenced later on when talking about the fact they can't recrystallize dilithium, blah, 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 whatever. This is something that's not going to be developed until Star Trek 4, whatever. Doesn't matter. That's not a continuity error. It's not a violation of canon that they had the character have that ability. Sorry, it's absurd to say that. Now, I think it was an incredibly dumb episode. Hell, they had Starfleet violating the Prime Directive with the mere fact that they were trying to abduct this person to steal that technology from her. But then why was she hiding on a Starfleet vessel? Why was she trying to keep this from Starfleet when she supposedly developed this so that the galaxy wouldn't need to mine that planet for dilithium? And do you think she wouldn't be trying to keep it to herself? The whole damn thing was nonsensical. It was absolutely idiotic. This one I actually felt did violate continuity because it's a little harder to shoehorn this into the timeline. That said, this one was more competently written. It was a workable story. Gives us a look at Harry Mudd, him being stuck in some situations he shouldn't be able to get out of. And it turns out the whole thing is a scam, Harry Mudd style. There's a couple errors there, though, I think. One, it didn't address how he ever got his hands on the time travel or time reset technology he previously had. I mean, that's not a continuity error, but that's something they really should explain. I mean, that was weird. That, you know, and maybe because he has that device, maybe there's some sort of time travel in play. That maybe this isn't that you could say this isn't a continuity error. But I think this is too much of a stretch in this episode that he had access like a decade too early to androids. Yes, he's going to get trapped on the planet of the androids in the future. Okay, what's he doing with androids now? If he could make android slaves, android copies, why was he selling women later on? And if he has a bounty on him from the Federation, why wasn't he just completely arrested and locked away when Kirk caught him trying to sell women and the Venus drug to miners? Miners, not minors, miners. People mining that planet, mining that planet for, I guess, yeah, it was dilithium actually. Okay, so basically what I'm trying to say is, what the hell is Harry Mudd doing with this now? Now, if this was after he was trapped on that world and found a way out of there, and he found a way to do this, reprogram the androids or whatever, that could make sense as a follow-up. If this was after Mudd's women, maybe this could be something that could lead up to him getting trapped on that planet. I don't know, but it just feels wrong. I suppose this could be shoehorned into the overall timeline. This could be something he goes back to doing, then stops doing, and then goes back to it. It just doesn't feel like, just doesn't seem like, it just logically doesn't seem like that should happen. So I kind of have issues with the whole overall concept, but as writing goes, as an individual story, it wasn't that bad. Now on towards the Orville. The Orville was pretty much standard Orville, which was good. It was a good episode. It dealt with Bortus's relationship, and things in past episodes were still weighing heavy on him. He was escaping his life stresses by resorting to holographic porn, which, yeah, that's understandable. And oddly, if not absurdly, the term porn addiction came up, and I'm not saying that's an impossible thing, but yeah, the term was brought up for this situation, and oddly enough used seriously. So take what you want of that. That's whatever. But yeah, I mean, Bortus resorts to using porn to distract him from his stressful life. The fact that he can no longer respect his mate after what his mate had done to his child in a previous episode, and it was interesting. It followed those characters and their absurd alien ways, such as divorce by murder. Yeah, that's a pretty hardcore concept. But it actually was a really good episode, and you could see how the things going on around him were affecting his feelings, affecting his emotions, and what he was thinking, especially when he saw somebody sacrifice their life for their children, or their family, I should say, when they were trying to save some people on a doomed planet. Though I did find that the aliens on that planet, that they weren't a colony of humans. At least there's no indication of that, but they didn't do much to make them look not human. So I thought that was kind of a little bit weak. They should have done something to make them more alien, I thought. But whatever. And of course, one of the main dilemmas is when Bortus goes and plugs any old holographic porno program into the ship's holodeck, or holographic simulator, or environmental simulator, whatever. He ends up infecting the whole ship with a computer virus, which causes quite a bit of problem. And yeah, that was another major dilemma. Overall, I wouldn't say it was amazing. It was all right. It was, by the Orville standards, it was good, and the Orville is a good show. And I did think they did a good job of seriously and interestingly working with Bortus, or using Bortus's character in an interesting way. And the character Isaac played a pretty good role in this episode too. Now, Isaac being the emotionless android who's curious about, I'm tempted to say humanity, kind of like Data was in Star Trek The Next Generation, but it's not necessarily just humanity. Basically, sapient, intelligent life, sapient humanoid, organic life is something Isaac is interested in, and he has his own comments and thoughts on it. And he questioned Bortus on what was going on with Bortus in a way that very clearly, and for understandable reasons, annoyed Bortus. And there was a great moment there where Isaac wasn't really questioning this like he was missing something, but Bortus said, "You may be superior to us in many ways, but I am glad I am not you." Basically Bortus would rather have his problems than be in a situation or be somebody that wasn't capable of understanding those problems. Which I thought was another interesting way of looking at life. I mean, it's kind of an obvious statement, but I also thought that was a good little moment for the show. There was a moment where Kelly said something about, something along the lines of, everybody on this ship is disgusting, or something like that, or it seems like everybody on this ship is disgusting. It was after Bortus was caught with the holographic porn, and then what's his name, the navigator, I forgot his name, he had referenced that he was just masturbating earlier today, and it's why he's so relaxed. That was kind of a funny line, and then she makes that comment about everybody on this ship is disgusting. And I thought, one, they're just talking about masturbation now. What century are you living in where you're that uptight? And two, we know her history. She has no right to be mocking anybody. Nope. I mean, some of her more questionable decisions might have been done under the influence of some hardcore pheromones. But still, in this situation, no right to criticize. And, yeah. But overall, it was a good episode. Oh, there was a good line where Bortus's mate made the comment something about that he didn't want his relationship to fail like the captain and the first officer's relationship did. That was kind of an interesting moment. The Orville, not a lot of problems with it, just a lot of interesting moments. The fact that they seem to take porn addiction a little too serious in this, which some people can. Even with porn, just about anything somebody can have an obsession with, and yes, we've decided to use the word addiction to cover that. In addition to porn addiction being very often used in situations where you can't take it seriously, yeah, people like porn, of course they do. It's very often used as an excuse where somebody wanted to look at porn and ended up in an awkward situation where it's taboo and I've seen it used as a lame excuse, usually by the religious. And so I'm going to try not to get into that too much, but I just thought it was kind of odd, and it was clear that Bortus was using it as an outlet for his frustration and disappointment in life. So, I'm not sure what to say about that, but the problem obviously was that Bortus needed an outlet to, escape his relationship. And then his relationship tried to escape him by the Mocklin version of divorce, which is murder. Yeah, so that's interesting. In a way, the episode kind of ended in a way where everything went back to normal, and next episode can be a perfectly normal episode, but there's little things in the episode that probably will affect later episodes, as this episode itself was built upon things that happened in previous episodes, and like I said, it was very interesting to me that they did a good job of looking into the psychology of Bortus. Now, many of the people involved with the Orville are people who were involved with Star Trek The Next Generation, Star Trek Voyager, and of course, the greatest show to ever to grace television, Star Trek Enterprise. So I'm not surprised that the Orville is pretty good quality. Deep Space Nine was a great show. I liked it more than Voyager, about on par with Next Generation, not quite as much as Enterprise. Deep Space Nine was great. I mostly attribute that show's greatness to Ira Stephen Bear and Robert Hewitt Wolf. Some people would say, what's his name? The guy that went on to work on Battlestar Galactica, but I hated Battlestar Galactica, and I wasn't a fan of his writing, whatever. But, the Orville is an excellent successor to Star Trek. It's its own separate universe, perhaps a parallel universe to Star Trek, and I thought it was pretty good. As for the short track, I didn't have too much problem. I had some problems, some distinct concept problems with the previous short track that dealt with Saru's past, but I actually thought that one was written better than average for Star Trek Discovery. And yesterday's more recent short track was also better than average for Star Trek Discovery. But they were still flawed, screwed up things. And it's not, look, some people would say, they shouldn't do a prequel because you can't make things fit with a prequel. Every time you do something in a prequel, it has to be a contradiction, so they should never do a prequel. No, I disagree. Look at the series of novels Star Trek Vanguard, which took place during the original series and fit in very well and were some amazing stories. They could easily come up with stuff that doesn't contradict anything. I just don't think they're competent to handle that. Star Trek Discovery is not well written. It has its positives and it has its negatives. And its negatives are pretty out of control. But overall, it wasn't too bad of a short trek, the one with Harry Mudd. But it is a little bit of a problem fitting it in with the timeline of Star Trek overall, which is nothing unusual for Star Trek Discovery. I actually read an interview or an article the other day where they're talking about how the people in Star Trek Discovery wishes they could have Picard on their show, which makes sense. Picard is an awesome captain. I consider the two greatest captains to be Picard and Archer, the philosophers and the explorers of the Star Trek universe. And well, anyway, but yeah, Picard on Discovery via time travel. I mean, it's hardly the biggest stretch that they've pulled off where they messed around with the timeline. Anyway, when the article came up, I could understand wanting Picard to show up. They had a great episode of Deep Space Nine when they went back to the original series. They could do an episode of Discovery where there's something going on behind the scenes and Picard is involved, you know. They could do it. It could be done well, except they can't do it because they're not competent to do something like that. But competent writers could have pulled something like that off. But what was actually interesting about the article that I haven't said yet, is the article said that they weren't going to do it or they couldn't do it because Picard existed in a different timeline. I'm pretty sure they worded it like that, a different timeline. So perhaps they could be admitting that Star Trek Discovery takes place in an alternate timeline from Star Trek The Next Generation? Well, that could explain the mutant Klingons. Personally, I would explain the timeline split as being something to do with the temporal Cold War, having events earlier than any Star Trek show, like a whole different evolution for the Klingons. Perhaps some of those people who were trying to manipulate the Klingons to be at war with each other, you know, stuff like that, you know. Because remember, the Suliban were trying to keep the Klingons at war with the Klingons so they wouldn't be a unified species or unified empire. Then there was that alien Nazi guy who has no problem with the idea of creating new timelines, who temporarily created an alternate New York where the Nazis had landed in the United States. Well, his time machine was destroyed, but he was technically standing in the portal when it was destroyed. He could have ended up on Kronos and tampering with the past of the Klingons and screwing up their genetics and resulting in these weird Klingorks. I mean, you can come up with all kinds of crazy fan theories to explain Star Trek Discovery, but Star Trek Discovery, I think, works best as a parallel universe. So, that's just a thought. Yeah. Oh well, anyway, time for me to end this video. Or this recording, since I'm doing this as an audio recording. Okay, that was my rambling little quick review of the Star Trek Discovery short trek about Harry Mudd and the more recent episode of the Orville as of the time that I recorded that. And as mentioned earlier, I was really late to edit this, wanted to do it quick, whatever, there it is. Just my thoughts, wanted to get out there if anybody was interested. Anyway, I'm Joey. This is me doing a video log, and yeah, well, if you're interested, you can look for some of my other videos. As said, this one, just a quick one about Star Trek and the Orville, but I've done other videos. You can feel free to look for those. Some are on YouTube, and DTube, and BitChute, and BitTube, and might even find something of mine on DLive, though it's a little harder to upload there currently. And this, I talk more about the Orville and Star Trek in a live video log that I did on 2019, month 1, day 11, January the 11th. So you can feel free to check that out, or just look for more of my videos. They're out there.